So, do we know about Carla?
Yeah, it's going to be a game time decision. So we'll see if she can give it a go pregame and then take it from there. The same.
Yeah.
Coach, congrats on the first win, of course, in an exciting fashion. With that first win in the new chapter of the franchise, does it feel like you can play a bit more loose with that kind of lifted off the back, or do you feel like you're kind of focused still, kind of finding the identity of everything?
Yeah, I think I'm really trying to come into this with one game at a time and being really just hyper-focused on the next game and even things like I'm not talking about wins and losses with the team. It's all our identity and making sure we can control what we can control every single game. So I think it's a really interesting question. I think it's just always been my philosophy to double down on us and keep the focus on us, more process-orientated, each game at a time. I mean, tonight they're going to come back. They're going to play with desperation, and we've got to ride out the storm. And I think it's, especially in that first quarter, we've got to match everything they're throwing at us. And if we can do that, I think we'll be in a good place.
How do you kind of prepare a team for, you guys win the way you did the other night, and I'm sure the Liberty have spent their coaches have spent the last 48 hours saying we should have won that game, so they're going to come out. Like, how do you prepare your players for
that? So, Chris is a great coach, and we know they're going to come out with some adjustments, and that's our job in terms of how do we think they're going to respond to what we did, and how can we have a plan in place to counteract that. So had some great discussions with the staff kind of last 48 hours, and I think, a lot of the conservative side would be played a great game, sticking to our game plan, but I'm more of a risk taker. So I don't think you can always stay the same. There'll be some tweaks here and there, and that's what we want to do this year. We always want to keep opponents on their toes and second-guessing what we're going to do.
This might be more me still learning sort of CLA. Obviously, a big part of it is you want players to create opportunities in the moment. Do you guys as coaches also adopt that in the game? Like, is there a point where you could just throw the game plan out the window if there's like a sharp left?
Yes, that's a good question. I think it's more about we have very specific adjustments, and a lot of kind of in our game planning meetings as coaches, it's every game it's having a series of what we think could happen, and we want to be prepared for whatever direction the game may go or what we're seeing. So for every game, I typically have as a coaching staff, we come up with some offensive and defensive adjustments. But to your point, you have to be really adaptable because something could happen which isn't on your game card. And that's when you've got to be ready to go off script and be bold enough to deviate. And I think it's a really interesting question because I found that the more I've coached with the CLA environment, the better I've become with my game coaching. I still feel I've got a lot to keep getting better at, but because you're always coaching the game in practice, it really changes what you're observing and what you're picking up. So I found like it's helped my game coaching in terms of really being able to pick up straight away like what's being done, and then having ideas for when we go to those timeouts, how we can give really specific pinpoint feedback to target what's going on in the game.
The Liberty are all obviously missing a few players, but they are title favorites. I guess what does that do for your team in terms of like getting a win against somebody that's considered a contender?
Yeah, I think it's big for the group. I think it gives us confidence, and I think it gives us confidence in the principles of play in terms of what we're trying to achieve offensively and defensively. And I think we want to be. We've spoken a lot about being connected, and I think what we saw a lot in that last game was the grit and the resilience. And I think the fact, to your point, that we could do that against a championship contending team really will bode well for the rest of the season.
Are you starting to feel any type of comfort in starting to develop a routine now that, this is now game 3 here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's getting into the game day routine now is starting to get there. And obviously it's nice because now I'm in my place. I'm in a great neighborhood, going for like a game day walk, getting outside. Tough today with the weather, but in the morning I got my walk in. But no, it helps having that routine, and gives me a day to really get my thoughts together and come in sharp, focused, and ready to coach.
Last call. Go ahead.
I know you mentioned it's a day-by-day thing, and I'm sure you're focused on the game ahead, but just a quick question. After the first win, was there a kind of a special message or anything in the locker room that you got to say to the group after the historically first win in the new chapter of the franchise?
Yeah, so the messaging for that was, number one, how proud I was of the group. It was really hard to describe just that feeling in that moment when I was standing in front of the team telling them that, and how everyone stepped up. I think every single player who played did something that helped us win that game. Whether it's something that showed up on the box score or didn't, I felt like it was we want to play this incredible form of collective team basketball, and I felt like we really showed that.